What if some of the bloating, the fatigue, the digestive problems you've been living with for years had a contributing factor most people in this country never get tested for? The CDC considers several parasitic infections significantly underdiagnosed in the United States, and some of the most common foods we eat every day contain compounds that actively work against them. That's what this is about, not a cleanse, not a supplement. 10 foods, what's in them, and what the research actually shows about how they interact with parasites in the gut. So let's get into it. Most people in this country associate parasites with travel. You go somewhere, drink the water, come back sick. That's the picture most people have, but it's not the whole picture. Giardia, one of the most common intestinal parasites in the United States, spreads through contaminated water, including lakes, rivers, and in some cases municipal supplies. The CDC estimates it causes more than 1 million cases per year domestically. Toxoplasmosis, caused by a parasite called Toxoplasma gondii, affects roughly 11% of Americans over the age of 6. It can come from undercooked meat or cat litter, and in most people it produces no obvious symptoms at all. It just sits there. That last part is what matters for this conversation, because what parasites do quietly, over time, looks a lot like other things. They compete for nutrients, directly. A parasite living in the gut is absorbing vitamins and minerals from the same food you eat, before your body gets to them. B12, iron, zinc. The building blocks of energy. So the fatigue that doesn't improve no matter how much you sleep, the exhaustion that follows even a low-effort day. Nutrient depletion is one of the most consistent downstream effects of a chronic, low-grade parasitic presence. Not because the infection is severe, because something has been quietly taken from the table. They also drive inflammation. The immune system detects parasites and responds, which is exactly what it should do. But when that response runs at a low level continuously, the inflammation it produces looks like other things. Joint pain without a clear cause, brain fog that comes and goes, the bloating and digestive irregularity that gets blamed on a sensitive stomach or IBS. In a meaningful percentage of cases, that's a gut environment inflamed by something living in it. And here's what makes this harder to catch. Take fatigue. That could be thyroid. It could be sleep. It could be any number of things. Bloating gets blamed on food sensitivity. Brain fog gets written off as age. Joint pain gets called arthritis. None of these symptoms point obviously to the gut. None of them say parasite, and that's exactly why parasitic infections go undetected for so long. The symptoms blend in completely with everything else. So people manage them for years, sometimes decades, without anyone ever looking at what might be contributing at the source. This is where diet becomes relevant, not as a substitute for medical treatment when a confirmed infection is involved that needs a doctor's attention, but as a meaningful part of the gut environment itself. Certain foods contain compounds that parasites genuinely struggle to tolerate, that disrupt their ability to attach, reproduce, and survive. Several of these compounds have been studied. Some have human trial data behind them, and every single one of these foods is something you can pick up at a grocery store. Here are 10 of them. Food number 1, garlic. Not garlic powder, not garlic salt. Raw garlic, chopped, crushed, or minced, and given a moment to sit before it goes into anything hot. Here's why that matters. When you cut or crush a garlic clove, 2 compounds that were kept separate inside the clove come into contact with each other. The result is a molecule called allicin. It's what gives raw garlic its sharp, almost aggressive smell, and it's the compound that researchers have consistently identified as the source of garlic's antimicrobial and antiparasitic properties. Allicin disrupts the cell membrane integrity of certain parasites, including Giardia lamblia, one of the most common intestinal parasites in the U.S. Lab evidence shows it interferes with the parasite's ability to survive and replicate in the gut environment. It doesn't work the way a prescription antiparasitic does. What it does is alter the environment, makes the gut less hospitable. The practical point: add raw minced garlic to dressings, dips, or anything that won't be heated further. Heat degrades allicin quickly. The compound forms when the clove is cut, but breaks down at high temperatures. Raw or very lightly heated is where the activity lives. I hear about garlic more than any other food in this context. Someone in the comments will mention they started adding it raw to salads, and somewhere in their message, they'll note their digestion improved, less bloating, more regular, and they're not entirely sure what changed. I always notice it. That pattern is consistent enough to be meaningful. Food number 2. Papaya seeds. This is the most surprising item on the list, and the one with the strongest human data behind it. Papaya seeds contain a sulfur compound that forms when the seed is chewed or ground, a chemical reaction that converts a dormant substance into its active form. The result disrupts how parasites produce energy and move, making it harder for them to stay attached to the gut wall. Papaya seeds also contain papain, the digestive enzyme the fruit is well known for, which physically degrades the outer structure of intestinal worms. There's a randomized controlled pilot study published in the Journal of Medicinal Food. 60 Nigerian children with confirmed intestinal parasites. Half received a mixture of dried papaya seeds and honey. Half received honey alone as placebo. 7 days later, researchers examined stool samples. The papaya seed group, 76.7% complete parasite clearance. The placebo group, 16.7%. That's a striking difference in 1 week. With food, it's worth being honest about the limitations. Small study, conducted in children, and it's a pilot, meaning it was designed to explore the question before larger trials, not to establish definitive conclusions. But it's one of the only human clinical trials that exists for any natural antiparasitic food. The results are real and published. Don't heat the seeds. The active compound is destroyed by heat. The reaction that creates it only happens when raw seeds are chewed or ground. The preparation in the study was dried, ground seeds mixed with honey. A teaspoon to a tablespoon is a reasonable amount to start with. Food number 3. Pumpkin seeds. Pumpkin seeds have been used across cultures specifically for intestinal worms for centuries. The active compound is cucurbitine, an amino acid found in the seed that research suggests works not by killing parasites directly, but by paralyzing them. When a worm loses its grip on the intestinal wall, the gut's natural movement can expel it. The clinical evidence is more limited than papaya seeds. Most of it comes from experimental or animal-based research. But the mechanism is well established. The traditional use is remarkably consistent, and pumpkin seeds are nutritionally dense regardless, high in magnesium, zinc, and healthy fats. There's no downside to adding them. Raw, unsalted pumpkin seeds, not roasted at high heat. A few tablespoons a day is where traditional use has landed, and it's a reasonable starting point. Food number 4. Ginger. Most people know ginger for nausea and digestion. Both are well supported. But there's a separate research thread on ginger specifically against parasites, and the most specific finding involves a type of roundworm parasite called Anisakis simplex. Anisakis is found in raw or undercooked fish, sushi, ceviche, smoked salmon that hasn't been properly frozen. In a 2010 study published in Parasitology Research, ginger extract was tested against Anisakis larvae in the lab. It killed 90% of the larvae within 16 hours. That's a meaningful result for a compound that's also safe, inexpensive, and sitting in most people's kitchens. Beyond that specific parasite, ginger's broader anti-inflammatory properties and its ability to support gut motility, the movement of food and waste through the digestive tract, make it consistently useful in this context. A gut that moves efficiently is harder to set up residence in. Fresh ginger is more active than dried for some of these compounds. A teaspoon or 2 of freshly grated ginger in tea, a smoothie, or added raw to cooking is a practical daily amount. 4 down, 6 to go. Food number 5, cloves. This one has a mechanism that separates it from everything else on the list, and it's the reason it keeps showing up in serious conversations about natural antiparasitic approaches. Most antiparasitic compounds, natural or pharmaceutical, target adult parasites. Cloves target the eggs. The active compound is eugenol, and lab research has shown it has particular activity against parasite eggs and larvae, the stage that most other interventions miss entirely. An adult parasite can be disrupted, paralyzed, expelled, but if the eggs survive, the cycle continues. Cloves address a different part of that cycle. That's not a small distinction. Eugenol also has broad antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory properties that help shift the gut environment more generally. Ground cloves are easy to add to tea, warm water, oatmeal, or smoothies. A small amount goes a long way. 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon daily is a practical range. And unlike some of the other foods on this list, Heat doesn't break down eugenol the same way it destroys the compounds in garlic or papaya seeds, so cooking with cloves still delivers the benefit. Food number 6, coconut oil. Coconut oil's anti-parasitic reputation usually gets tangled up in the debate about saturated fat, which means most people never get to the part where the research is actually interesting. The relevant piece is a specific type of fat in coconut oil that, when the body metabolizes it, converts into a compound with documented antimicrobial properties. Lab studies have shown this compound active against a range of pathogens, certain bacteria, some viruses, and some protozoa. The evidence against parasites specifically is mostly from lab settings, not large-scale human trials. To be clear, coconut oil alone is not going to clear a confirmed parasitic infection. What it contributes is a gut environment that's incrementally more hostile to certain organisms, and combined with the other foods on this list, that compounds. 1 to 2 tablespoons a day is the range where most of the relevant research has been conducted. It's stable at higher cooking temperatures, which makes it easy to use consistently. Food number 7, oregano. Specifically, the compound carvacrol, the primary active component in oregano, and the reason oregano oil has become one of the more studied natural antimicrobials. Carvacrol has demonstrated activity against Giardia in lab settings. The mechanism involves disrupting the outer membrane of the organism, similar in concept to how allicin works in garlic, but through a different chemical pathway. Research has also shown carvacrol active against various bacteria and fungi, which is why oregano oil has developed a reputation as a broad-spectrum antimicrobial. And there's a meaningful difference between oil of oregano and dried oregano from the spice rack. Oil of oregano is highly concentrated and standardized for carvacrol content. Dried oregano still contains carvacrol, but at much lower concentrations. If you're cooking with dried oregano regularly, you're getting some benefit. If you want the more concentrated effect documented in studies, oil of oregano, a few drops in water or in capsule form, is the relevant preparation. One thing worth noting, oregano oil is potent. It can disrupt gut flora across the board, not just parasites but beneficial bacteria too. This is the same argument that applies to pharmaceutical antibiotics. If you use it for extended periods, pairing it with a probiotic-rich food makes sense, which connects directly to the last few items on this list. 7 down, 3 to go. Food number 8, pomegranate. Pomegranate has an unusual profile compared to most of what we've covered. Most of the other foods on this list work by targeting parasites directly, disrupting their membranes, paralyzing them, destroying their eggs. Pomegranate does some of that, but what's particularly interesting is a powerful antioxidant compound found in the fruit, and especially in the rind, that research has associated with activity against Giardia and other intestinal protozoa. The mechanism involves blocking the parasite's ability to attach to the gut wall, similar in concept to what pumpkin seeds do through paralysis, but through a different pathway. And because this compound is a powerful antioxidant, pomegranate simultaneously reduces the oxidative stress and inflammation that parasitic activity tends to produce in the gut. You're addressing the parasite and the damage it causes at the same time. The juice is the most accessible form, a small glass of pure pomegranate juice, not a blend or cocktail with added sugar. The seeds of the fruit contain the compound as well. This is one where consistency over time is probably more relevant than a large one-time dose. Food number 9, turmeric. Turmeric doesn't kill parasites the way garlic or papaya seeds do. What it does is different and worth understanding in context. Curcumin, the active compound in turmeric, has well-documented anti-inflammatory and gut protective properties. In the context of parasitic infections, that matters for a specific reason. Parasites don't just cause symptoms directly. They damage the gut lining, trigger inflammatory responses, and compromise the body's first lines of defense. Turmeric helps address that secondary layer of damage. It supports the gut environment in recovering even as other foods work on the organisms themselves. There's also some direct evidence of curcumin's effect on certain parasites in lab settings, Giardia in particular. The evidence is preliminary and largely experimental, but it supports using turmeric as part of a broader approach rather than in isolation. One practical note, curcumin is poorly absorbed on its own. A compound in black pepper increases absorption significantly. The two have been used together in traditional medicine for exactly this reason. Cook them together or use a turmeric supplement that already includes black pepper extract. Food number 10, fermented foods. This is where the oregano note from the last section becomes relevant. Fermented foods, yogurt with live cultures, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi, any traditionally fermented food, introduce and support beneficial bacteria in the gut. And the relationship between healthy gut flora and parasitic infections matters more than most people realize. A gut with a robust, diverse bacterial population is meaningfully harder for parasites to colonize. Beneficial bacteria compete directly for the attachment sites and nutrients that parasites need. They also strengthen the protective lining of the gut wall, the physical barrier that parasites target and compromise. And they regulate the immune response in the gut, keeping it calibrated rather than chronically inflamed. This is the part most people miss when they think about anti-parasitic approaches. It's not just about attacking what's there. It's about building an environment where unwanted organisms struggle to take hold in the first place. Fermented foods don't eliminate an active infection, but as a daily habit, they shift the baseline, and they support recovery from everything else on this list. Plain, full-fat yogurt with live cultures works well. So does a spoonful of sauerkraut or kimchi alongside a meal, or kefir as a daily drink. Pick whichever one you'll actually eat consistently and make it a habit. A lot of people watching this have been managing digestive symptoms for years. The bloating that comes and goes without a clear pattern. The fatigue your doctor couldn't explain. The gut irregularity you've been told is stress or age or just how your body works now. And you've adapted around it. You plan your day with it in mind. You've stopped eating certain things. You've started saying no to things you would have said yes to before. A trip to see your grandchildren you kept pushing back because you were nervous about being away from home. A holiday dinner you left early. A friend's invitation you turned down because you knew how you'd feel by evening. Not because you wanted to miss those things, because you couldn't predict how your body would behave. That's not a small thing to have organized your life around, and most of the time, nobody has suggested that something specific might be contributing to it, something that was never checked for, never ruled out. These foods won't fix everything, but they are real, they are researched, and they are available at any grocery store. You don't need a protocol or a prescription to start, and if even one or two of them shift something in how you feel, in your gut, your energy, your clarity, that's information worth having. Pick 2 or 3 from this list that feel practical for where you are right now. Add them to your week. Be consistent for a few weeks and pay attention, not just to your gut, but to your energy and how you feel in the morning, because those things are connected. And when the gut environment shifts, you tend to feel it in more than one place. If this was useful, subscribe. There's more content like this here. Take care of yourself.